Welcome. Today we're going to look at Love Lives Here by Jette Knox, which is a disclaimer. I'm going to do my best to talk about it. It deals with trans issues, and I'm going to do my best to talk about it well. Before we do that, a couple ways to support the channel. Number one is to become a patron at patreon.com/CurtisMcHale. Number two is take one of my courses. I have a course on Zettelkasten, which is probably most interesting to you, so how to do research. There's a link to that below directly, or you can go to curtismchale.ca/Skillshare, and that is just an affiliate code. You can sign up for Skillshare. They give me a little bit of money, costs you nothing. That's it. Let's look at Love Lives Here by Jette Knox. So a while ago, I got a book, what's it, it's on my shelf back there, called Irreversible Damage. That looked interesting to me in that I haven't read it yet, but that is supposed to be about the irreversible damage we're doing to our youth by allowing them to be transgendered, I guess. It's been a while since I've looked at that. But looking at and knowing that, coming up in a traditional Christian background, that's probably the book I was going to agree with really well. I knew that I needed to start, I guess, reading about the other side of the argument, about why LGBTQ community, transgender community is cool, and why it's totally okay to go with. So that's where I've started. I read a few, The Savvy Ally, I've read a couple others, I don't remember what they are now, but I read The Savvy Ally, and now I'm reading Love Lives Here, which was recommended to me by my local bookstore. It is a memoir about a family that has two people transition. I'm going to do my best not to dead name them, and so dead naming is the practice of calling them their old name or their old gender. Except for at one point, I'm going to try to just to be clear with what happened. Yeah. So it follows a family from the mother's perspective, where they have a daughter and a wife transition. So that is the gender that they are. They are not the gender that they were assigned at birth. And we talked about that, some of that, the difference between your sexual assigning at birth as far as your biological gender, and then the gender you are in The Savvy Ally, and I'll put a link to that above. Because that's, there's like 4 or 5 different ways that you can identify there as far as your sexuality, for everything from who you want to have sex with, to what clothes you like to wear, to what your biological gender is. Now, one of the things that stuck out to me was the actual dead naming. This is where you use their old naming, and why I'm going to try to be very specific about it. Be specific about it. Another issue that I'm grappling with as I look more at transgender topics is the assertion that medical intervention before a child finishes puberty causes irreparable damage. So I would generally fall into, I still am grappling with my idea that, or my thought that, how does a kid know? Like, how does a kid know? Because they're a kid. There's so many things you say they're not old enough to be able to grapple with. You don't think a kid can vote, but you think that they can, think that they're the wrong gender. So I'm grappling with this. I'm not saying that that's the belief I would push. Wouldn't push it on anyone. If your family decides something else, like, I'm not going to do it, say much about it, because that's you. But I do admit I find it hard to believe that I'll even say my 7-year-old, it really thinks that she is boy. I would have a hard time working through that, as most families would, I think. But working through, like, will I let her have some, what interventions would happen with that. Yeah. I don't know what to say. This is why I'm reading these books, to give me another opinion on that. Now, Knox actually cites that not allowing them increases their rate of suicide. Like kids who want to transition, it increases the rate of suicide. And she talks about the long wait times for intervention also increasing depression and suicide. So, yeah, I don't know what to say about that. It basically, she says that, and she cites a couple studies, which I glanced through. I didn't dive into them, but that say that if you do not let them transition, they have worse outcomes. And the longer you delay it, the worse the outcomes become until they actually get to transition. So after reading this book, the biggest topic of discussion at my house was around, this is, I guess, suppose dead naming here, where Amanda, the author, marries a man, and then the man becomes I suppose Amanda would say, finally gets to live as who they are. That's what she'd say. And is a woman, right? Starts presenting gender as a woman. And that, or was able to finally feel free enough to let go of the male gender that they were assigned at birth. Is probably the best way I can say that. I'm trying here. If I was wrong, please feel free in the comments to say, hey, this might be a better way to say it, because I'd love to be able to say that better. So Knox is actually very clear that her wife has always been a woman, but was trapped at birth in her assigned gender of male. And that her wife was depressed and really hard to be with. Like, their marriage was not on the rock, maybe on the rocks. It was a really tough marriage before her wife got to present as who she was, really. Now, Amanda does not gloss over the difficulty in the transition for her, and realizing that if she is going to stay married to this person, then that, I guess, means she is a part of the LGBTQ community herself, as a lesbian. And they are married. They had a second wedding, and that's kind of how the story wraps up. There's a lot more on their daughter transitioning, and then the wife transitioning is taken up in partway through the last half of the book, and is a much shorter story. So, should you read Love Lives Here by Amanda Jette Knox? If you're looking for a book with a bunch of statistics, this is not it. If you're looking for like long guidance on how to reference gender, this is not the book for you. The Savvy Ally is a better one for you, which I reviewed. You'll see a link above earlier in this. If you want a story that makes it real of a family grappling with what it means to be or to transition, what it means to the family, what it means all around, then this is a book for you. It's more of a memoir. I have a friend who's still wants male pronouns, but is transitioning. He is transitioning. Or still wants male pronouns used by other people. Only mom at home is using female pronouns and a name, female name. But is transitioning, is kind of grappling through that. I think this is a good one for my friend, actually, just to read and to try and understand how someone else went through this same struggle. And I say struggle in some ways because it is, changing in some ways who you know, right? Your child changes gender and you have to grapple with that, but also dealing with the pain that society puts on people who want to break out of society's gender roles, because especially for boys, it's really hard, which we talked about in Boys and Sex. How men are basically just jerks to each other if they don't conform to exact maleness. That's it. Men are jerks to a lot of people, actually. That's it. That's all I got for you today. If you liked the video, thumbs up below. If you loved it, you can subscribe and hit the bell. And if you really hated it and you're like, how would you ever talk about this, Curtis? It's terrible. I literally don't care. So don't listen to the videos when I talk about stuff like this. But if you are unwilling to address the subject yourself, then that's your problem, not mine. And I will continue to address it the best I can. Have an awesome day.